Hello everybody. It's been a while since I've been on. Needless to say, the swamp, or Venezuela, as one of our senators calls it, of the Senate. Oh, there I am. Don't know what happened. Sorry. So, the Senate Sub-Ed Committee, which is the most alarming place I will have to say that I've ever had to be in the small, confined space. So just to let you guys know, a lot of people sign up and speak in the House subcommittee Zoom. Well, the Senate is not like that. To get through the gauntlet of the Senate Sub-Ed Committee, you have to be there in person. So what we're up against is the VSBA, the VEA, the Counselors Association, the Social Workers Association, the Psychologists Associations. These guys, these are all lobbying groups. They are all lobbying groups that are running our schools, our parents, everything. So they pay lobbyists to sit down there all session long, go office to office and lobby for this stuff. Meanwhile, we're scrambling to get 1-2 people to get down there to speak. And this is the Senate because, and this is where this is why bills go to die. When you have Ghazala Hashmi stating, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. This is just a quick little blurb of what I had to deal with. This is the third time transparency in education was heard. Now, I was originally told that it was not going to be heard, so I wasn't there for it, but she decided that if it wasn't heard 3 days after Senator Chase had COVID, that they were going to pass it by. So that's why Mamie Locke has her mask on. But, so I just want you guys to imagine me, after Ghazala Hashmi organized a transgender walkout protest in Midlothian Middle School. That's grades 6 through 8. So 11 to 13-year-olds. Okay, proof. It was a national file with the proof. Thank you, Amanda Pohl, who ran for the Democratic senator seat against Amanda Chase a couple years ago. Because people question my approach to things, but my approach to things is I get so much information sent to me. So just to clarify real quick, if you didn't know...
Say one of my concerns.
So if you weren't aware that they do know that this is sexually explicit material, and then I'm going to get to transgender, but I just want you guys real clear to listen to Hashmi. This is the woman I had to sit across from for 2 weeks straight, which is why I've been so silent, is because I feel like my soul has been damaged. Oh, let's see if I can get this big. There we go. And this is just a clip. Senator Chase has the whole, I just clipped. Shut up. I know I have a lot of junk. Okay. This is just...
Move to report.
I'll just say one of my concerns is violence. We seem to focus on sexual explicit material. I don't really care about that. I care about the gratuitous violence that children are exposed to. Say one of my concerns is violence. We seem to focus on sexual explicit material. I don't really care.
So wait, one more time.
Focus on sexual explicit material. I don't really care about that. I care about the gratuitous violence that children are exposed to, not necessarily through books, but through all of the other violence. We seem to focus on sexual explicit material. I don't really...
So, just real quick before I get into transgender, this is the woman who... Can you imagine me 16 inches away from her multiple times trying to politic? after the middle school that I went to organized a transgender walkout. No, nothing done. Nobody cares. A Republican senator organized, I don't know, say a Christian walkout. Can you imagine? This is the same woman that Suparna Dutta, who was just not appointed because she didn't want communism and socialism part of the history standards. And so somehow this senator, after the due dates on the 7th of January, this week, convenient how they waited to do that on the same day. And Ann Holton, who's Tim's wife, is on the committee. She's the one who wants communism and socialism taught to our children, who Suparna got into a fight with. Not a fight, but a verbal. This is an Indian immigrant woman, okay, who they are calling racist. Or they are saying that's how far we have drifted, is that an immigrant Indian woman who is extremely intelligent is targeted by who? Who at 0 dark 30 put in the amendment to remove Suparna? Ghazala Hashmi. Who's besties with Ann Holton, who's Tim Kaine's wife, on the VDOE, Virginia Board of Education? Ghazala Hashmi. So if you can't, if we're not connecting dots, how did that amendment get put in and heard the same day to remove Suparna? This is where I'm saying that we have a major problem, and that a governor who won't govern, to say that, yeah, you can't do that. The deadlines have been hit. Boop, boop, boop. It's not the way governments run. So I just had to show that real quick, and if you're jumping in, just to clarify the problem that we have. So I wanted to go over the transgender issue that it seems that we're having, because the legislation continues to seem to be in question, and I'm not exactly sure why. So if you guys have not watched the full JCAR hearing, which would be the Joint Commission on Rulemaking, you can go to, if you're on it now, which you probably are, you can go to our YouTube channel. And let's see. Right here. So this right here is the entire JCAR hearing. Because I was there and it disappeared and kept disappearing. So this would be the Creedides and Eben and Mamie Locke and I don't know. They decided they were going to have a hearing on Youngkin's respect for dignity, his new transgender model policy. And I had to get a senator to dig it out because it kept disappearing off of the public archive page where it should always be. And so we decided that we would live stream it once I got a hold of it and put it on our YouTube channel for public record, just so that it's there because it kept disappearing. So it's on our YouTube channel. And I don't have any minute, but it's worth the 3-hour watch to see. If you're a parent, imagine it's like watching everything that you are as a parent. And I say this, but I'm not being dramatic, is that if you understand your rights, your fundamental rights as an American and as a parent, it's like watching it get raped and have people sitting there cheering it on and other people sitting there doing nothing while you have the government raping you of your rights to raise your children, and having nobody sitting there. I mean, but so this is a great image. Guidera walks in, and you can see Rome, Danica Rome. It was like Donald Sutherland, and you know how when they the Hunger Games, when he comes on the big screens and he's like talking down, like that's what it was like. This image, there's large screens like looming over, and so it was like Danica Rome would come on and be like, I am the transgender speaker of the world in Virginia, and I'm telling you that what you're doing. And it was extremely, if you don't know what you're talking about, and if the only experience that you have in education policy is data collection, yeah, she got destroyed. And I kept begging them to let me come up there and argue the case. So just real quick, so this was the JCAR hearing that people seem to be confused about. And so just to touch on, you need to go through and watch this, because it is the biggest example of a bunch of idiots, and I will say that. When you have delegates referring to failed legislation, Danica Rome, as
Okay, so then, Mr. Chairman.
As precedent, there's a problem. When you have nobody actually reading the law, that's the Virginia law on the transgender policy, and then you have Equality Virginia and the ACLU up there whining, because this law has only been in place for a year. Why are you changing it? Well, you wrote the law to hand it over to the VDOE. Okay. So let me pull this up real quick. I'm just going to pull up one of the Virginia Mercury articles that will explain this for you. Okay. Okay. So, good old Virginia Mercury. So, the revised transgender model policies. Okay. I can't even read the whole thing. So anyway, JCAR went on to state, there's a great picture, to state that they believed that this policy was in conflict with another law, which would be the fundamental rights of parents. So they went on in this video that you have to watch. This is Cree Deeds, okay? He went on to state that there's a law, which would be from 2014, Bryce Reeves 240.1-1. That's a law that he says is in direct conflict with the transgender model policy. This is what was so enraging after sitting there for 8 hours, is that 240.1-1 isn't a law. It's a fundamental right. And so that's number one, is that if you still have a school board that is sitting there and that has done nothing with this, first of all, they didn't need a new model policy, because there's this thing called the 14th Amendment. It's called due process. And had I been as intelligent as I am now, because you forget my first school board meeting was the meeting August 10th, 2021, when they voted on this. Had I known then what I know now, it might have been different. But there's something called due process. And due process means that to remove the fundamental rights of anybody, you have to give each of those people has to have due process hearing. So if you have a school board like Chesterfield County that has still done nothing, you don't need a model policy. You never did. It's called a grievance. Make your grievance known to the school board. Then go to the circuit court. You have 30 days after making your grievance known. That's step one that every parent in this state should be doing, should have done. I can't drag you to the circuit court. I've pulled my kids, so I can't do it at this point, or I would. Because if you can't fight for your rights, we don't have a governor, guys. Nobody's coming to save us. He's done his due diligence, which is what he said he was going to do. Running on the back of a transgender rape victim. He's issued the new policy. And because the law was written, which the Democrats love to do, they write a law and they pass it to the Virginia Board of Education, because the department has no constitutional authority. So notice that since I started screaming that, now it all has switched from department to board. But they sent it to the Board of Education. There's nothing in the law that states to remove parents. The department and the board did that. There's nothing in the law that states there has to be co-ed bathrooms. It gives stipulations to guidelines to which the transgender model policy must follow or acknowledge. It does not say they have to adopt them. It is the law passed it to the department to develop the model policy. So when Youngkin first came into office, a lot of people they said, well, he doesn't have a Senate. He doesn't need a Senate. This was a year ago. He doesn't need a Senate. Like a school board, the law, that was their fault. And Delegate Head from VADEMS pointed that out. It's not our fault you wrote a bad law. They wrote a bad law. And I didn't do this video immediately because legislative session was coming up. And what I thought that the Joint Commission was going to do on rulemaking is that they could have, and I was waiting until all the deadlines have been passed for this latest legislative session, because my big mouth has come back and bitten me in the butt before, is I thought that they were going to slide a new rulemaking in, changing the law. They didn't. So here we are. So if you, now I have a running list, and I'm not talking, it's this thick, of every school board member, every delegate, every senator, everybody on the original transgender model policy. That would be Atif Corney, that would be James Lane, that would be every counselor, every psychiatrist, every school counselor, everybody, Sarah Bazemore. It would be Samantha Hollins. It would be every single person that is on the original transgender model policy that made that policy to remove the rights of parents. Because they violated our due process 14th Amendment. Until we start acknowledging the Constitution is a real, living, breathing document, it is not a mythical unicorn, then yes, they are going to continue to come for our children. Period. So, how do we approach this moving forward? They've written a letter saying we don't agree with this. Guess what? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's funny because, let's see. Delegate Head, by the way, is my new favorite person. I'm wondering why this is even coming before JCAR, because it seems clear that this exceeds JCAR's authority in every way that I can see, which is what me, Family Found, all of us prior were like, what are you doing? What are you doing? But Senator Creedeeds, go figure, who chairs the commission, pointed to the state codes stating that our JCAR is pretty limited in authority, but I think we can look at this. That's pretty much how that entire hearing went. Is, we're going to let Equality of Virginia and the ACLU go 45 minutes each and give a presentation. We're going to let Equality of Virginia set up for 15 minutes with technical difficulty. Oh, it's the opposition's time? Oh, we're out of time, so we're going to go from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. And then Delegate had said, did you offer any other parent outside organizations to come in and give a presentation? And he was like, no, we did, the department came in. He said, no, I mean, these are independent organizations. These are not government organizations. Did you bring, like, we have two in the room. We have, Family Foundation and Virginians for Children's First. Did you allow that? No, we didn't. We didn't do that. He was so dismissive. I mean, you imagine me, I'm like fuming at this point. So, needless to say, they wrote a letter. We don't agree with this, blah, 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 blah. But, so, where do we go from here? Is that you need to start writing Elizabeth.Schultz at DOE.virginia.gov, because she seems to be the one who is spearheading or is in charge of this. Now keep in mind, Miss Schultz is the same woman who at a GOP Christmas party a couple months ago where Chesterfield County's Ryan Harder, running for delegate, who already told me that attorneys told them prior to August 10th that they had to adopt the model policy, that it was Sands Anderson who told them they had to adopt the policy, with Elizabeth Schultz standing there. So we go back and forth about what do we do? What do we do? Well, here's what you do, is that until the holy rain of hell from parents comes down on these people, and I don't care if it involves taking down Youngkin, Sears, Miarez, your local Republican senator who won't stand up for parents' rights, your delegates who won't come in with the bat of freedom for you, is that anybody who's not saying you have violated every parent's due process, 14th Amendment, that's the United States Constitution, therefore you violated your oath of office. Okay? So you can sit and hold your breath until the cows come home and wait on whether this has been promulgated or not. Smoke and mirror, guys. We are 13 months into past day one, and our children are no better off. So I will tell you that what they fall for is something, the blackmail, the suicide, the blackmail by suicide. It's what they do. Children will commit suicide, it will be your fault. It's how they blackmail parents. Would you rather have a living he or a dead she? Guys, there's so much research out there. You know, even the World Professional Association for Transgender Health says that what we're doing is wrong. But Jane Robbins wrote an amazing article, and I'll show you guys this, and I'm going to try not to stay on here all night. It's called Exploiting Child Suicide to Bully Parents of Trans Kids and the Ultimate Science Denial. And this is from 2020. Jane Robbins is one of those people who, she's still, a lot of the front runners are not, like Karen Ephraim, let's see, Charlotte Iserbite, Phyllis Schlafly, are not with us any longer, which is very sad. But we are lucky enough to have, you know, Lynn Taylor, Common Core Diva, Anita Hogue, and Jane Robbins, but I'm sure that she's exhausted at this point. They've been fighting this so long. But it's not just like opinion of her. Now this is a saved PDF I have. Being trans identified increases suicide risk of a factor of 13. Anorexia, 18 to 31. Depression multiplies by 20. Autism by the risk of 8. But is that the numbers that they're giving you, is that what they're doing, and is they're exploiting gender dysphoria. And they have completely ignored gender dysphoria, and they have jumped immediately to transgender. And let's see. I'm going to pull up and show you. I'm going to show you guys the actual law real quick, because there seems to be a lot of confusion about what the actual law actually states. Okay, so this is the law. So it says the Department of Education, it's actually the board now. If you'll notice, new law that's been written is the board, because the department has no constitutional authority, shall develop and make available to each school board model policies concerning the treatment of transgender students in public elementary secondary schools that address common issues regarding transgender students in accordance with evidence-based best practices. I didn't expect to jump into that, but I'll do that real quick. So, compliance with applicable non-discrimination laws. Maintain a safe and supportive learning environment free from discrimination and harassment for all students. That would be non-discrimination. That would be all children should have a safe and supportive environment. If we go by the normal safe and supportive, not their terminology. Prevention of and response to bullying and harassment. That should be all children. Maintenance of student records. So guys, the law gave the authority to who? The Board of Education. I'm not going to say the department because they don't have constitutional authority, and it comes down to the board. So they said that there has to be best practices on the maintenance of student records. And then those records, it doesn't say you can't include parents. Identification of students, it doesn't say remove parents. Protection of student privacy, it doesn't say remove parents. Enforcement of sex-based dress code. Student participation in sex-specific school activities and events and use of school facilities. It doesn't say has to be co-ed bathrooms. Okay? Are consistent, but maybe more comprehensive. Consistent with this. That the VDOE had to write a model policy encompassing these things. The law did not state removal of parents. The law still does not state removal of parents. Because had they written a law stating we're going to remove the parents, it would have been a big problem because people would have said, no, you can't do that. The law, so who's responsible? At this point, they all are. Because every law in order last year and this year to reverse this has been denied. So the people who originally wrote this law that did not add parents, the removal of parents, were not originally on my list. Are they now? Yes. Every person, including Carrie Coyner, Republican Chesterfield, who voted last year, was the deciding vote in the House, not the transgender policy that would have changed this. She's on my list. And when I say my list, I mean you can file due process as a class action and go against, guess who? Government officials. So if you don't think I'm building that and you'd like to get on board with me, let me know. Because when it comes down to it, nobody, and when I say this, nobody is going to take my right, which is a fundamental right, one that is so implicit that without it, liberty is not possible. I've read it so many times. That comes from Supreme Court cases, guys. So Troxel v. Granville, 2000. The Due Process Clause does not permit a state to infringe on the fundamental right of parents to make child-rearing decisions simply because a state judge believes a better decision could be made by the government. That's the Supreme Court in 2000. Washington v. Glucksberg, 1997. The 14th Amendment, that would be due process, forbids the government to infringe on fundamental liberty interests no matter what process is provided unless the infringement is narrowly tailored to serve a compelling state interest. This is not a compelling state interest, or is it? So, guys, I mean, I could go, I mean, I have pages of Supreme Court law going back to the 20s about the fundamental right of parents. It is constitutionally God-given protected. Until the state proves parental unfitness, the child and his parent share a vital interest in preventing erroneous termination of their natural relationship. That would be Santosky v. Kramer, 1982. This is my favorite, my absolute favorite, and I'll close with this. The statist notion that governmental power should supersede parental authority in all cases because some parents abuse and neglect children is repugnant to American tradition. That would be Parham v. JCAR, U.S., 1979. Once again, their argument is we have to protect a few who may be abused if we out them to their parents. Again, the law of the land is the Supreme Court in the United States Constitution. Period. It trumps the unconstitutional, so they want to keep bringing up Grimm, the Grimm case. Grimm Gloucester. Guess what? Like Roe v. Wade, if it's not in the Constitution, it goes to the states. So if you think I'm not building a case to overturn the Grimm case, I am. So now it's up, the decision is being made about law school or school board in my brain because there's no attorneys to try this stuff. We have the Supreme Court to overturn this stuff. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, God, people are thinking, she's such a transphobic, whatever. No, I'm not. 100% I'm not. You can do whatever you want as an adult. What you cannot do is take the authority of what my job as a parent is. I'm not going to allow that. I refuse. And every parent who said, I pulled my children because I saw what it was doing to my daughter. And I have 2 of them. And I refuse to let them touch my littlest one who's in kindergarten. Okay? It's destroying children. But here's the thing, is that the blowback, because they've taken rights, but they have no responsibility, that's the problem. With rights comes responsibilities. If a parent was to do this, do any of this, give their kids medication that they didn't need, decide that they were going to chop their child's breasts off at 13 because they thought it was in their best interest, the state would come and remove the parents from them, or remove the children. With rights comes responsibilities. You can't take a parent's rights from them without them knowing, and this includes curriculum in loco parentis. You take rights from a parent, but they have no responsibility. Who gets the blowback? The parents do. Most of them have no clue where it's coming from. So if you're going to take the rights, then you have the responsibility. When these children actually do start committing suicide because you've locked them into an identity that is not their own, it will be your fault. I will be here to make sure that when the suicide rate does skyrocket and the mental health rate does skyrocket even more, guys, mental health has been going on for so long, they've created the problem that we're now finally seeing. It's not because of COVID. They've been teaching this stuff to children at an age inappropriate level forever in this state. 2017, I can track it back to. And now 6 years later, it's so bad we need more of it. We're asking the wrong questions. And so once again, to remove, it's like this. I want to say to Ghazala Hashmi and everybody who believes that they have to protect our children from us. So, Japanese internment camps. So you're saying that you would be okay with that to protect the nation from Japanese Americans because Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. You're saying that you would be okay with Japanese internment camps because of the potential threat they could face, or we could face, with Japanese Americans. That's, I mean, people look at me like, oh, how dare you say that, you racist? Shut up. Shut up. Because the notion that you're going to remove the rights of all parents to protect maybe a few from what you say is happening, no, absolutely not. And it's not just an opinion. It's the Bill of Rights, not the Bill of Feelings. Once again, it's not just an opinion. It's the Supreme Court of the United States of America. The statist notion that governmental power should supersede parental authority in all cases because some parents abuse and neglect children is repugnant to American tradition. 1979, Parham v. JCAR, U.S. Supreme Court. We have recognized on numerous occasions that the relationship between parent and child is constitutionally protected. Quillan v. Walcott, 1978. Until the state proves parental unfitness, the child and his parents share a vital interest in preventing erroneous termination of their natural relationship. I already said that one. Santosky v. Kramer, 1982. It goes on. It goes on and on and on. And there's even ones about Western civilization and the upbringing of children and the American tradition. Cleveland Board of Education v. LaFleur, 1974. This court has long recognized that freedom of personal choice in matters of marriage and family is one of the liberties protected by the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. In matters of marriage and family. Personal choice in matters of family is one protected by due process. You can't decide because you're a baby daddy that you don't want to be a parent. You can't even give over your parental rights. They'll say, nope, you had that baby. You've provided that sperm. You have to take care of that child. You can't give your parental rights away if you want, unless you put them into a school. And there's something beyond wrong with that. I mean, you can't. The same people just wrote legislation to make it non-criminal that if you're a foster parent or a guardian in the CPS system and you test positive for marijuana, you can still keep that kid. It's okay. They decriminalized testing positive for marijuana for people in foster parents. I watched it 2 days ago on the Senate. Yet actual parents are the enemy. That's the world we live in, guys. So here's what I would do. First thing, go to your school board meeting, the next one. Everything that I just said, due process, 14th Amendment, it's real. They took your rights. You go in front of the school board, you say it. Then, when they do nothing, you go to the circuit court, because it's in the state code, if I can find it in front of me. Usually I have all this stuff right in front of me. If you look up Senator Reeves or even the highly contested John McGuire school board accountability law, it's already in the code. You have 30 days after a school board grievance. And a grievance is a grievance. You're pissed. Go to the circuit court, file. Or go big or go home and work with me. Because, guys, here's the thing. Youngkin already said that he's not forcing the localities. Miara says here, Youngkin Attorney General expects them to follow transgender policies. It's the law, so I don't really have a lot of patience for folks that see law and don't comply with it. Where has he been this whole time? Because here we are, that was September 20th? What month is it? February? Oh, right here. Asked about how the Office of Attorney General plans to enforce the new guidance, the spokesperson said only that the Attorney General expects schools to comply with the law. Thanks for that reassurance, Miarez. So, like I said, nobody's coming to save us, and we have to get to the point to where the threat of lawsuit by parents is equally as frightening as the ACLU, because we are far mightier in numbers, and we actually have the Constitution and the law, not the twisted word salad version of how we're going to twist it, but the actual foundation of what this country was founded on. And by the way, you didn't give birth to them, you don't take care of them, you don't feed them, you don't do anything other than you want to direct and affirm them inside those walls 8 hours a day. No, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen in my America or my Virginia. And unfortunately, we don't have a governor that's going to stand up and swing the almighty bat of democracy. So it's on us, guys. I'm going to bow out. I'm getting a new Substack if you haven't checked it out. It is Virginia Warrior Mom. As a journalist, I kind of feel like I'm treading water, and maybe people will read versus watch or listen if they have, I don't know. But I'm really kind of spinning my wheels here. So join up on the Substack. And I'm trying to decide what my first one's going to be. And I think it's going to be explaining what evidence-based is, because you see it in every other word now, and nobody has any clue. Like global citizenship, education, what it actually is. So why would you question it? So if you have any suggestions, let me know, and I will check in with y'all later. But go to the if you missed the beginning, if you go again to our YouTube channel. Where'd it go? No, I don't want studio. I'll show you guys one more time. Anyway, you're probably on YouTube right now. So close out, and it's the one, and it's red, and it's got JCAR on it, and it's 3 hours long. I just hit live stream. Here it is. I just hit live stream right here. It's this one with the red one. It's the Stop Corruption JCAR Virginia Dems ACLU. It's 3 hours long, but you need to watch the whole thing if you can. And there's a lot of good stuff in here. But only if you want the truth. If you still want to drink your Kool-Aid, that in education there is still two political parties, this is not the channel for you. But stay tuned. I will be, I think it's the 20th. If you watch Sons of Liberty or know Lynn, Common Core Diva, thank God Sons of Liberty and Lynn let me come on, because when you speak truth to these in Virginia, you get called a liberal, an insurrectionist, what else was I called because of the BS Glenn Davis school choice bill, a provocateur, because I'm not anti-school choice, I'm anti-BS. So let me look at my calendar. It's 6 a.m. It's super early, but if you guys are up, it is going to be Wednesday the 22nd, 6 a.m. Sons of Liberty. And when Lynn, who's amazing, if you guys have never followed Common Core Diva, her blog, she's one of those ones that if you want to understand it front to back, like I understand it, you need to read her stuff. Anita Hogue is another one. The blog Wrench in the Gears is another one, but that's like super, like if you want to understand like blockchain and how this is like I understand, and I love Allison. And these are the people that when I wanted to learn this, I reached out to them, and that's who I learned from in a year. And so, you know, I'm kind of taking a break because I'm exhausted. You know, I'm going to start writing. I'm going to start doing this. Virginians for Children's First is still here. We still need your help. I'm traveling, talking to people running for school board over the next month, educating them front to back on what education policy is, what they do once they get seated in a school board position, besides pulling out of the VSBA. Because, speaking of that, and again, as I close, see, the VSBA has these really great things called policy pages. So this would be the policy page, and I'm not going to pick it apart, but so this would be May 2021. So they go through and they kind of break down, you know, and then they give kind of ideas like this is where why policy all looks the same. The school board authorizes the superintendent to create and update. So they literally, these are the people, like personal social counseling. These are the people that tell the school boards how to break the law, how to violate the Code of Virginia. Because you see they reference the VDOE model policies, not the actual law. So these are the people that we were up against in the Senate Sub-Ed Committee. Who said this law is not needed. All of our school boards follow this. It's ridiculous. And Ghazala Hashmi was like, yeah, they do. I mean, this is just redundant. And then when you come back with school board member statements, you're lying. You're lying. I mean, that's what we're up against, guys. Flipping this Senate has got to be, it's more important than flipping the governorship last year. But, so, I got kiddos. I know this was kind of all over the place, but what I want you to know is it doesn't matter what the model policy says. It does. What matters is finding out from our governor and from our attorney general, what are you doing? What are you doing? But what is really is that everybody, if you live in a county like Chesterfield County, they violated the rights of 63,000 parents by voting to remove us because I have the removal plan. The plans where they ask your 6-year-old, oh, your parents don't affirm you? Okay, who are your trusting adults? That's called due process, and that's the 14th Amendment, and that's the United States Constitution. You violated your oath of office. Go to your school board, and if I had known this before I pulled my children, I would be the front runner in doing it myself. But unless you want this to sit around forever, because we have a governor who's not going to enforce it. So if you are going to hold your breath and wait for Youngkin or Miares to come in and save us, and I will come to your funeral. That's just the way it is. And it's unfortunate that that's the way it is, but he's already said he's not going to force localities. So if you're okay with your kindergartner and your grandchildren going to the bathroom, co-ed bathrooms, till the end of time, and for this absolute lunacy that's being inflicted on our children to never end, then sit there and wait for somebody to come save you. Unless you don't, then step up and do something. Because guys, it's now or never. These kids have about 2 or 3 years left, and then there's the point of no return. So on that note, have a good one, and I will talk to you soon.